to have your dad, an opposition leader, being poisoned. It was literally like a book.
Come on, poisoned? Seriously?
The story is an incredible one. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny poisoned with a nerve agent after continually speaking out against Russian President Vladimir Putin.
And our next guest has brought Navalny's story into the public spotlight in what has now become an Oscar-winning documentary. And we are so pleased to welcome Canadian documentary director Daniel Roher to the morning show. Daniel, it's good to see you. Congratulations. And, well, we see you brought a special guest with you this morning.
Well, I just want to make it very clear. I don't travel around with this everywhere I go. It's sort of having its hometown victory lap. I'm going to be leaving it at my parents' house in Toronto, and I'll probably never see it again. But it'll provide my mom and dad with a lot of joy for years to come. I bet.
Has it sunk in yet?
You know, I'm trying to figure out how to process that which cannot be processed, and I'm struggling, but it is not lost on me that the astounding success of this moment and this little statue is predicated on my friend Alexei being in solitary confinement in horrendous conditions in a gulag 6.5 hours outside of Moscow. And so everything I'm experiencing and all the joy of the success is sort of colored by that reality.
What is his reaction to this? To this Oscar?
Well, I only wish that I could have told him myself, but I know that Alexei found out a couple of weeks ago. Soon after we won, he was listening to the radio through the cell door in the gulag, and they were doing on Russian news a recap of Oscar night, which I thought was funny in and of itself. But they very overtly omitted the documentary category, and I think Navalny said something like, that was a terrific sign. He knew in that moment that we probably won, because that's why they didn't include that in their reportage. He's thrilled. This is a big win for him and his mission and his plight. More than anything, we are engaged in keeping Navalny's name in the global consciousness. His life is constantly at risk. His life is at stake. And so the more people who see our film and are able to engage with his story and get to know him, perhaps the more it will dissuade the regime from murdering him. And that's really the prize at stake here. This is cool, but the notoriety and boost that the film and its profile receives is really the true reward.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a bit about Navalny's family, if you could, who joined you on stage the night you actually accepted your Oscar. In fact, I believe we do have a photo of you and his wife backstage. Talk to us about that moment, if you could, and why that was so important.
Well, it was so viscerally overwhelming. I had dedicated 2 years of my life to this man and his family. There's the photograph. I don't even remember the moment, but there it is. The full emotions of that instance is fully captured in that photograph. A photograph truly is worth 1,000 words. I just walked off stage, and I embraced Julia, and I was crying and holding the Oscar, and I think I whispered something like, "I'm so sad Alexei is not here." And I think that's a common refrain they hear in their lives as you go through your experience and you reach milestones and your husband and father isn't with you. And that's really difficult. And that's why for my colleagues and I, that spirit and feeling is never far from our thoughts. It's impossible for me to fully enjoy this accomplishment because I know what it's predicated on, and it's important to me that I couch every interview and every time I'm asked about the Oscars with the sort of visceral reality of why we're here and who is truly responsible for this, which is Navalny and his family and their courage. But I just want to very quickly speak to the family now. They're doing really well, and one of the great pleasures of this experience is getting to know them. And you know, just a few days ago at my wedding in New York, Yulia and Dasha and Zahar were there, and they were tearing up the dance floor. And I think that really speaks to their spirit as a family. In spite of all the tragedy that they face and the hardship of their situation, they still find time to dance, and that really matters.
I'm curious, at what point and how long did it take for you to gain their trust?
Well, for Alexei, I think he and I would say, became pretty fast friends. I think our bond was forged around our shared sense of humor, our shared love of politics. We had a lot to discuss, a lot to argue about, and we both enjoy a spirited debate, and I think that was very much the nature of our relationship, and we started shooting almost right away. Because my initial pitch to Alexei was that the events that are unfolding are happening in real time, and if we miss it, they'll be missed forever. So let's just start shooting. And what I tried to present him with was a sort of low-risk, high-reward proposition. And to Navalny's credit, he was an extraordinary documentary subject. He was so interested in how the cameras worked and the editing worked and what the DP was doing and what the sound guy's job was and all of the different components. And it really just speaks to his curiosity as a human being and some of the success that he's had as a politician with his mastery and understanding of contemporary media and digital media.
Thinking about Oscar night, I mean, it was such a historic night, a big night, not only for you, but for Canadians in general.
Yeah.
Brendan Fraser, of course, Sarah Polley as well. What did it mean to you, Daniel, to be part of that that group on stage?
Well, I mean, it's such an unbelievable honor. It was brought to my attention shortly afterwards that I think it's like 94, 95 Canadians have ever won an Oscar. And you think about the millions and millions of people who are engaged in the film and television industry. Canadians are so present in Hollywood and so talented and all of these things. That's such a stunning number. 94 Oscars have ever been brought home here. And to share that with Brendan and Sarah and that really cool dude from Montreal who did the makeup for The Whale was really special. I'm dear friends with Sarah Polley's big sister, Kathy Galkin, who's a fantastic documentary editor here in Toronto. And so Sarah and I were able to send a little video back home, I think from the Vanity Fair party, but that was very meaningful for me.
Well, it is such a pleasure to have you here on the show. Congratulations again. Thank you for having us see up close an Oscar in person.
As close as we'll ever get.
As close as we'll ever get. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.